From repeatedly knocked off chosen ones, to certain iconic big bads not finding a way to repeat the trick of cheating even the most emphatic of ends. These are those times when movie characters just could not resist a double dose of death. Gareth here from WhatCulture.com, and here are 10 movie characters who died twice. Number 10. BERTRAM PINCUS, Ghost Town. Ricky Gervais' unfortunate habit of taking a wander on over to the other side during Ghost Town will get this double demise ball a-rollin'. With Gervais' dentist of BERTRAM PINCUS discovering pretty early in the day that he'd actually been technically classed as dead for just under 7 minutes, whilst under general anesthesia in the middle of his colonoscopy, things quickly take a bit of a bizarre turn. From that moment onwards, Pincus finds himself gifted with the ability to communicate with ghosts, and all manner of supernatural strangeness inevitably unfolds. Then, after spending much of the flick trying to aid a ghost by the name of Frank with some unfinished business concerning his widow, Bertram is once again dealt a fleeting fatal blow as, similarly to Frank, he accidentally collides with an oncoming bus. A bit of dodgy anesthesia and a speeding vehicle was not enough to keep this dentist down though, with Pincus once again just about staying away from the light completely on the back of himself becoming a ghost for a few brief moments post-bus smash. Number 9. General Zod / Doomsday, Man of Steel and Dawn of Justice. Proving to be one rather stubborn pain in the ass for Kal-El over the course of his hard-hitting run within the DCEU, General Zod's battle with the Man of Steel in the titular standalone Superman flick very nearly toppled Metropolis entirely. Things got so intense for old Supes that he even had to resort to breaking his no-killing rule in the closing stages of that catastrophic brawl, brutally snapping the relentless Kryptonian's neck in order to save the lives of innocent civilians. A little old broken neck was never going to be enough to keep this all-powerful General of Krypton down though, right? Well, sort of. While not technically being revived as the Zod fans witness pulverizing the son of Krypton a film earlier, Lex Luthor did use the General's body as the basis for an absolute monstrosity during the events of Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. Combining his own blood with that of a deceased Zod, Doomsday was ultimately forged by Jesse Eisenberg's LexCorp CEO, paving the way for that Ninja Turtle-looking beast once again being dispatched by Supes late on. Only this time, the just about second coming of Zod managed to take Jor-El's son down with him. Number 8. Captain Barbossa, Curse of the Black Pearl and Dead Men Tell No Tales. Setting the tone for the series as a whole, to be honest, the return of Jeffrey Rush's cackling pirate Captain Barbossa during the closing stages of Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Man's Chest proved that there's more than one way to avoid sleeping with the fishes in this mystical series. After having already outlasted death for some time upon meeting Barbossa and his crew in Curse of the Black Pearl, thanks to some cursed Aztec treasure, the formidable force finally found himself meeting his maker on the back of the missing pieces of said gold being added back to the mix. This act then released him from his immortal curse, just as Jack Sparrow fatally gunned down his Black Pearl rival, of course. Delivering the mother of all unexpected returning utterances one film later though, Barbossa suddenly revealing himself to a recently killed Sparrow's crew, followed the grinning pirate captain being remarkably resurrected via some voodoo magic by the human vessel of the sea goddess Calypso, Tia Dalma. Are you keeping up? Yet after managing to somehow navigate the perilous seas for another few features from there on out, Hector Barbossa finally waved goodbye to the land of the living for good, after sacrificing himself to save his daughter Karina in Dead Men Tell No Tales. For now at least. Number 7. Io, Clash of the Titans and Wrath of the Titans. Sticking with those lucky few who find a way to be resurrected on the cinematic stage, Clash of the Titans' seemingly immortal Io quickly learned the hard way that being ageless and invincible are two very different things entirely. Upon being fatally stabbed straight through her midriff, Io finds herself being launched through the air by Jason Fleming's beast formerly known as King Acrisius. And despite Perseus managing to see off the Calabos creature shortly after, the damage had already been done, with Io eventually passing away in his arms. This being the godly world of Greek mythology, however, mystical revivals are always never too far around the corner, are they? And sure enough, Io is brought back into being by Zeus in the closing stages of the 2010 epic, only for Io to then tragically be killed off once more during the time in between Clash and Wrath of the Titans, with the latter film's opening sequence revealing that Perseus simply couldn't catch a break when it came to his eventually late wife. Number 6. IMHOTEP, The Mummy and the Mummy Returns. After initially being horrifically mummified alive back in 1290 BC, during the events of the 1999 remake of The Mummy, Arnold Vosloo's High Priest IMHOTEP soon found himself being brought back to life thanks to some ill-advised reading aloud of the Book of the Dead. This is why you should always read in your head. Managing to qualify for this list over the course of that same movie alone, said mummy is then eventually made mortal in the closing stages, and fatally stabbed through the stomach by Rick O'Connell. However, far from this being the last the gang would see of the unsettling entity, The Mummy Returns involved IMHOTEP doing precisely that, upon once again being resurrected, this time by a bunch of cultists with designs on ruling the world, of course. Seizing the honor of being the first trifecta of deaths boasting member of this list, IMHOTEP would once again pass to the other side towards the end of that 2001 follow-up, but instead of being struck down at the hands of another this time around, the sandy antagonist decided to end his own life once and for all in the wake of tragically witnessing his beloved Aksunamun abandon him as he dangled onto a ledge above the underworld. Third time's the charm, I guess. Number 5. Emperor Palpatine, Return of the Jedi and the Rise of Skywalker. As the Star Wars series has highlighted time and time again over the years, falling down a shaft simply isn't enough to guarantee that any character will be definitively gone forever within this galaxy far, far away. But perhaps the most notable example of a character somehow surviving the sort of fall that would be the death of the average Joe or Jane within this corner of the galaxy comes in the form of Ian McDiarmid's Dark Lord of the Sith himself, Emperor Palpatine. After being sent to his tumbling doom by former apprentice Darth Vader in the closing stages of Return of the Jedi, stubborn old Sheev managed to wiggle his way back into existence via the transferring of his essence into a rapidly deteriorating clone of his original body by the time of the Rise of Skywalker. And while the Emperor may have been able to fall back on a pretty effective contingency plan in the wake of his Episode 6 demise, the second coming of Sheev didn't account for his granddaughter eventually coming back to finish the job the Chosen One started a few decades earlier. Sure enough, Rey Palpatine was able to harness the strength of the many Jedi that had fallen over the years long enough to deflect her Grand Palp's lightning back onto himself and kill him and herself for a moment in the process once again. Number 4. Neo, The Matrix and the Matrix Revolutions. He may have eventually been able to stop bullets with the wave of a hand, but that still couldn't stop Thomas Anderson from biting the dust on 2 separate occasions during his time connected to the Matrix. First being effectively shut down during the closing events of the 1990 flick that started it all, Neo finds himself being fatally shot in the chest by arch-nemesis Agent Smith, whilst trying to stay alive within said Matrix. On that occasion though, the One was triumphantly smooched back into existence by Trinity, on the back of declaring to his lifeless corpse in the real world that the Oracle foretold she'd fall in love with said One. How romantic, eh? 2 films on from that epic comeback though, Neo was once again killed during the Matrix Revolutions, only this time in an act of sacrifice, as the One allowed himself to be assimilated by Smith before the machine sent a shock of energy into his body and destroyed both in the process. And simply refusing to let the poor lad rest in peace, Neo was then once again brought back into the fold via resurrection 60 years later, along with Trinity, with the pair being revived by the Analyst in the aptly titled The Matrix Resurrection sequel. Get it? Yeah. Number 3. Vision, Avengers Infinity War. Wanda Maximoff definitely wasn't the only one who felt like they'd just had their heart torn out of their chest repeatedly when Thanos' pursuit of the Mind Stone during Infinity War saw Vision being massacred twice back to back. After already summoning up the strength to smash the precious yellow gem out of her lover's skull and killing him during this desperate surge of power, Elizabeth Olsen's long-suffering Scarlet Witch was forced to watch her bionic man once again be taken from her thanks to the Big Purple Menace's newly obtained Infinity Stone. One flick of a time stone infused wrist later, Viz was back amongst the living. And another crushing act of Mad Titan brutality later, he'd completed his return trip back into oblivion. And while a few versions of the Synthezoid have managed to wiggle their way back into the MCU in the time since this catastrophic repeated end, that still won't erase the devastating fact the OG Vibranium legend was royally obliterated twice in quick succession in front of an understandably distraught Wanda. Number 2. Thanos, Avengers Endgame. Thankfully, karma is a dusty bitch. 1 film on from being the person responsible for knocking off Vision a second time and blipping away half of the universe, the Mad Titan was greeted by a justifiably brassed-off set of Avengers in his retirement garden. Then, before he knew what had hit him, well, a rather depressed Stormbreaker-wielding Thor had hit him in the head. That would not be the last Earth's mightiest heroes would see of their arch-nemesis mind, with time having a funny old habit of messing back in the wake of the Avengers' mostly successful time heist in Endgame. Said messing back attack soon saw Thanos unleashing hell and a rather staggering army on the Avengers compound late on, coming within inches of once again getting his hands on the Infinity Stones and this time snapping away everything, restarting the universe from scratch. But the all-powerful nutsack Chim was not counting on Tony Stark being a resourceful son of a gun, was he? Iron Man's own Infinity Stone supporting nanotech suit and a bit of deceptive jostling soon paved the way for a dose of his own blip-in medicine, and the rest was dusty history. Number 1. Wolverine. The Wolverine and Logan. Bowing out with one last Marvel soul who just did not know when to call it a day, Wolverine has proven on more than a few occasions throughout his time on the cinematic stage that you can never truly count out this adamantium hardass. With Hugh Jackman's claw-boasting anti-hero finding a way to survive everything from an atomic bomb blast to being sent crashing to the bottom of a river, you'd be forgiven for thinking that it was just about impossible to see off this rather relentless mutant. But James Howlett has actually flatlined on a number of occasions over the years as it goes. The Wolverine saw Jackman's one-time X-Men member extract a robotic parasite from his own chest that had been suppressing his iconic healing abilities, only for Wolvie to drop dead on the operating table in the aftermath. Thankfully, said regeneration abilities soon kicked in and he was back to his old slicing and dicing ways in no time, until Yukio's prophecy about Logan's eventual death, on his back with blood everywhere and holding his own heart in his hands, ultimately came true during the climax of the eventual Logan sequel, of course, with the titular character eventually reaching the end of the line for good, covered in blood whilst holding his daughter's hand. Oh, it's so sad. And that's our list of any other movie characters who died twice. Let us know all about them in the comments section right down below, and do not forget to like, share, and click on that subscribe button while you're at it. Also, if you like this kind of thing, then head on over to whatculture.com and find some more incredible articles just like the one this video you're watching right this second is based on. I've been Gareth from whatculture.com. Thank you as always for clicking on this fantastic video today. Hopefully I'll see you very, very soon, but in the meantime, be good to yourself. Bye bye.